Thanks, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me here for a bit of palaver on Hail to Stephen King. That is right, the show that I have done 2 times a year for about a year now, and another year of just weekly worship on a Sunday even before that. Welcome to the horror show. You can just call me Fuego, and from the tower of books you see behind me, yep, that terrifying tome right there, yep, all of those that I have collected over many, many years. Cy King is my favorite author, and for that reason, yep, I sought out a couple of years ago, well, many years ago now at this point, but it's been a little over a year since I finished reading every single King book in its published order. And I also have a Facebook group also called Hail to Stephen King, and from time to time, I get fantastic ideas from the YOU the Ka-Tet, and this is where I have to give a shout out to Mr. Joshua Pruitt and a fantastic question that he put forth in the Hail group just recently on Facebook. He said, what are the best Stephen King friendships that he's ever written? Now, for Valentine's Day last year, I actually did an episode about Stephen King's greatest romances, and I got a lot of shite for not mentioning one in particular. So if you want to see who that was that I omitted, yeah, you'll have to go here on the Stephen King theme playlist and jump back and watch that video. But Josh had a great idea, and I tried not to read every single person's favorite because everyone was like their favorite. Well, this is one where it was nearly impossible to find a favorite, but I sat and I rattled off a good 15. I was like 15 favorite friendship. We'll do a Mortal Kombat status. And I thought that that would be a very fun idea for a video here on Hail to Stephen King. So yeah, I'm gonna rattle them off, y'all. Now, obviously, I'm not going to include something like Holmes and Watson, for instance, which, you know, The Doctor's Last Case, that was where Cy King actually got to play in Arthur Conan Doyle's playground and write a Sherlock Holmes story, because that would definitely make the list, but obviously, I'm not going to say that. And then, also, another one that I am not going to throw out is Bobby Anderson and Guard, and then obviously, you know, Ralph Roberts and Lois from Insomnia. And the reason that I'm not gonna include both of those, despite the fact that they're both very much friendships at their root of everything, albeit one is kind of backwards to the other one. Insomnia starts with Ralph and Lois, and they're very close friends at first, and they bond over their insomnia and their lack of being able to sleep, and they go and have this great adventure and mystery fighting immense forces of evil in the Crimson King and all of his little, you know, puppet mastery that's going down and stuff, and, you know, the Random and the Purpose and Little Ball Doctors, all that fun stuff that, you know, makes peeps adore Insomnia. But it eventually does become a romance, you know, and they both lost significant others in their husband and wife respectively, and so, you know, I'm not going to include that. And then the backwards thing here is the fact that with Bobby and Guard, it was the opposite. They were lovers for quite a while, and they have somehow been able to kind of maintain a very close just friendship and love, and you can tell that there is still attraction and stuff there, but at the end of the day, it is just the truest sense of friendly love, and that's why Bobby, even as she is slowly just becoming taken over by this alien presence that is within this ship that she is the first to discover, you know, the fact that she just keeps Guard drunk and just kind of, you know, off in the background of sorts, just shows that she was in the midst of a personal war within herself in a lot of ways. And I think the Tommyknockers, just like Insomnia, very, very underrated. I do prefer the Tommyknockers, but so for that reason, in the 15 that I'm about to very quickly count down for all of you, I am not gonna include either of those two at one time couples in, you know, Ralph and Lois and Guard and Bobby. So let's get to this countdown proper, shall we? Now, I'm gonna start out with one that I'm actually pretty sure very few people even know about, and it's from none other than bottom shelf. I hope you can see it. Yeah, there it is, way down. You can just barely see it there. The Bizarre Bad Dreams has a story called Summer Thunder that was originally published in a Cemetery Dance, I want to say a 25th anniversary or some sort of anniversary like collection of sorts. And it's about, you know, the big bomb finally hits, and, you know, North America is just totally wiped the F out. This guy named Peter Robinson. Now there's so many names here, guys, to all keep track of, but so Peter Robinson, you know, he loses his family, you know, they die from the fallout and stuff in Boston, and so now he is in this very rural, remote area of New England, and he's got a dog named Gandalf that he's worried is dying of radiation poisoning, and the friendship here is with him and a much older gentleman named Timlin. And Timlin is like much more knowledgeable about what the extent of this radiation poisoning / fallout. It's like those who didn't die in the initial blast, they are going to suffer long from just, you know, the poisons within them from all of these nasty chemicals from the bombs that came. And, you know, they share warm beers and they share camaraderie. And it's just a very slow, bittersweet, and sad story that I really adore. And I mean, honestly, I was thinking about this as I was making the note of all the friendships here, in the fact that I absolutely have to do a countdown of favorite King collections. If I counted down all the decades, and if I've, you know, done, you know, various other rankings videos and stuff like that, I have to do a collections countdown at some particular point here in the near future. So yeah, that's our number 15 is, you know, Peter Robinson and Timlin. And then after that, and these are honestly probably in no particular order, because as I was making a list, I was like, oh, this could be 1, this could be 2, whatever. I'm just going to rattle through maybe some of the lesser known ones, and then just kind of, I think I'm almost going to move in like a chronological order of sorts, or a published order or something like that. So another one that came to mind was obviously going to be from Hearts in Atlantis, and it's almost a dueling trio friendship here, because you've got Ted Brodigan and Bobby Garfield, but then also Bobby Garfield has his friendship with Carol Gerber, and both Carol and Bobby show up at later times in the collection of novellas there, and then obviously Ted shows up in Dark Tower 7 and becomes a very, very crucial part. But, you know, Ted and Bobby have this very cool dynamic, and then the trio of them all have, you know, of Carol, Ted, and you know, Bobby all have a form of Kef and are kind of a loose Ka-Tet in and of themselves. But, you know, just Bobby and the way he tries to protect, you know, Carol, and, you know, from bullies and all this terrible stuff, and then, you know, Ted and the misinterpretation of the friendship, especially from Bobby's mom, and thinking, you know, there's something inappropriate going on at one particular point with even Ted and Carol. And so in the face of just the weird pairing and certain preconceptions and everything like that, I also adore the backdrop of, you know, the 60s and We Blew It and everything. I mean, it's a heartwarming one, and one that was honestly really, really wonderfully brought to screen with, you know, Brodigan being played by Anthony Hopkins and Bobby Garfield by the late, great Anton Yelchin. So if y'all ever get the chance to check out that film, the Hearts in Atlantis film, even though it only adapts like 2 of the stories, cuts out a bunch of the middle ones, most notably Hearts itself, where Carol comes back in college, and it's great. So yeah, Bobby, Brodigan, and Carol from Hearts in Atlantis at your 14. At number... I almost didn't want to include it at number 13, but it's one of the few things that I really enjoy about this book. I have gone on record to say this is my second least favorite Stephen King book, and that's Dreamcatcher. And the reason it's my second least favorite and not my absolute least favorite is because of the friendship that we have between Jonesy and Beeve, and you know, we've also got who are the others? You got Pete and Henry. That's right. And the fact that, you know, their friendship since growing up in Derry has still lasted this test of time. You know, with the friendship that they had with Duddits and protecting him, you know, from bullies as well. You'll notice that to be a constant theme in King stuff, especially the stuff with younger kids set in the 50s and 60s. It's like there is always that protector mentality that they just revert into, which is, you know, it shows just the deep-rooted morality, you know, within King, and how you're supposed to protect the weaker ones and stuff like that. And so that dynamic was really the only thing that, in the silliness of alien invasions and shit monsters and all the other wackiness of Dreamcatcher, you know, the way over the topness of Kurtz, I still really love that enduring friendship between those boys and the Ka-Tet that they kind of formed upon, you know, protecting this very special child. So yeah, Dreamcatcher actually getting a nod on here. Can you guys believe it? I'm eating my words here. There's a reason why Bag of Bones is my least favorite Stephen King. So okay, let's jump into Yeah, you know, this is another one which a lot of people may not necessarily think. I went with our trio from Joyland. So you've got Devin Jones, I believe his name was. Yep, Devin Jones. And then he has his friends Tom and Aaron that he makes while he's working at this Carolina theme park in the 70s. And it's a cute one, you know, in the fact that, you know, Devin does kind of have the hots for Aaron, but Aaron ends up, you know, getting with Tom instead. So, but it is very much, you know, they're late teen or early 20s. You know, and, well, they're early 20s if I remember correctly. They're at least far enough in college. I want to say they're like 20, maybe 21. But anyway, it's the fact that they, you know, catch a clue to this mystery of this woman who was killed in one of the thrill rides, or, you know, the haunted house, you know, go figure. You know, a thrilling ride, hopefully if done right. And so, yeah, Joyland, that is... Well, we do get some romantic stuff later on, you know, where Devin befriends this older lady and her son and stuff who is disabled and, you know, in very, very failing health, regrettably. I still feel like that friendship that, especially since you hear it, there's flashbacks and, you know, flash forwards and stuff like that. The fact that you know what the course of that friendship took and how even with, you know, Devin as a much, much older man recounting a lot of this, he still has connections, you know, with them. And so that's, yeah, Joyland at the heart of it, despite it being a coming-of-age story and really Devin's story at its core, there is a big connective tissue about the importance of friendship, especially in that transition from adolescence to adulthood, you know, which is pretty cool. So yeah, at number 12 we got Joyland, y'all. So number 11, this is going to be one that it might be just a slight bit of a stretch, but I felt like it definitely needs to be on there, and that's Paul Edgecombe and John Coffey. It's more so a fascination, you know, but it does become like an empathy and a care, you know, between this seasoned, you know, prison guard and this man on death row who he's been falsely accused of, you know, the murder and rape of these two very young girls and stuff. And so it's right there in its serialized version. I also have the hardcover version. Somewhere here. Oh, and then yes, over there. But yeah, long story short, just the relationship and the connection that those two do have, especially as Edgecombe, like, discovers more and more the extent of this man's gifts and whatnot. It's, once again, I feel it is more so a fascination and, you know, an empathy than anything else. But it is definitely a friendship to a degree, and it's definitely one that I would be remiss not to mention. So now let's jump into number 10. And number 10, you know, we'll just do the other, yeah, because I feel like the friendship was played up much more so in the feature film because you had someone like Morgan Freeman actually playing Red. But I mean, yeah, Andy and Red in Shawshank, it's more so like a business type like association, and there is like an essence of friendship there. It's just, I don't know, the Darabont film just really cranked that aspect up amazingly, and that's actually another one. I haven't said it a lot about Stephen King stories, but where the adapted work is actually better is really the case with all three, in my opinion. Well, except for maybe The Green Mile, because The Green Mile had more to condense in comparison with The Mist and Shawshank, which were able to be expanded upon. But yeah, I gotta say, Andy and Red, and especially as it was more fully realized as one of the greatest films of all time, let alone Stephen King adaptations, I think, how can you not go through this and not mention back-to-back, you know, Edgecombe and Coffey, and obviously, you know, Red and Andy. And I mean, he starts out as just his means of, you know, getting his little rock, you know, former fashioner, little hammer thing, and then getting his poster and just starting the process. But, you know, I just really like the slightly altered and enhanced direction that they took with the feature film. I really like it quite the bit. You know, another one that we can jump to that I don't personally absolutely adore, but I feel like it needs to be mentioned here, especially since I've seen more peeps in the Hail Facebook group actually discussing this story. They read it recently, or it's in some cases it was one of the first that they ever read, and that's between Arnie Cunningham and Dennis Gilder. I was forgetting his last name for a second. And Arnie and Dennis, they have that very interesting friendship dynamic that is on the verge of splintering. They've been close for years and years and years, and yet, as often happens, especially at the tail end of high school, people start to drift apart. And it's always that much more heartbreaking when you understand the extent of a friendship and then realize the fracturing that transpires. And in Arnie's case, it's when he's being slowly possessed by this ghostly presence of the original owner of this car, Christine. And those are the truest tragedies, because how can you be let down if you don't see how beautiful and warm and genuine it was at one particular point in time? You know, that's why, you know, everybody's like, it's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. Boy, sometimes I don't know, you know, because you end up feeling like Butters on that South Park episode, or, you know, that line from Vanilla Sky, and you're just like, holy shnikes. But yeah, Dennis and Arnie is it's a tragic tale, and yet it's one that I think really needs to be told for the sheer fact that so many have experienced that, you know, especially at the end of high school, and it's heartbreaking. It truly, truly is. So that was our number 10. Jumping into our number 9, as I am honestly just kind of bouncing around here since I did not put these into any particular order. So, you know, let's go with let's go with the Ka-Tet version 1, okay? So I wasn't really so sure where I was gonna put, you know, either of the two Ka-Tets, because if I was gonna listen together, separate, whatever. And by these I mean the Dark Tower Roland's two different Ka-Tets, you know, because when he was younger he had Bert and Elaine, and then when he was older, you know, he had Jake and he had Oi, and obviously, you know, Susanna and Eddie. And so I guess even if I prefer the younger crew, that's just me personally, and a lot of Tower junkies disagree with me about this, I would say that since we spend so much more time with the, you know, Roland's new Ka-Tet, that has to go at least higher up as far as the mentions and stuff go here. So yeah, anytime we go into battle together, especially at a young age, and a really young age, in their particular case, you know, they're spying in this barony, you know, they're just, it's such a fascinating, you know, thing, and I just love me some Bert so damn much, and his dynamic with, you know, Roland is very similar to that of Eddie and Roland, in the fact that it's like sarcasm versus seriousness, and it's just, man, if I was to really put a friendship, like a favorite friendship, it would probably, I'll get to Fremantle Environment at some point, but it's probably between those two, and then, like, you know, Bert and Roland. But so yeah, the original Ka-Tet, how can you not mention them? They really, in Roland's life, it was when he was still more on the side of purity and selflessness, as opposed to, you know, that first glimpse into the grapefruit and all the stuff that transpires after that, and where you had to really, but, you know, maybe it's more impressive because he had become so introverted and so selfish that with the second version of his Ka-Tet, they were able to open his heart back open, and so maybe there is something more prolific to that aspect. But the innocence of that youthful friendship and the naivety, you know, Bert and Roland especially, cannot be mentioned enough. Another one at number 7 that I definitely have to mention is Tom Cullen and Nick Andros from The Stand. This is a shout out to Andrew, because I know Nick Andros is like one of his absolute favorite characters. That's, you know, Andrew in the Hail Ka-Tet group. If you're watching this video, man, what up? Yeah, just the finding of common ground between two disabled people it's badass inspiring. It genuinely is. You know, when you have someone who is, you know, someone who is deaf, and then someone who is, you know, like very slow, you know, to put it in the nicest possible capacity, and yet the warmth and just that is really just one of the most genuine friendships I think that you can actually find, where that sort of just really sweet common ground is there. And it's unfortunate that they didn't get as much time as we would have liked, because they're both more characters on the supporting side of things, I would say. Tom especially, you know, M-O-O-N, that spells Tom. So, but how could I not mention Tom Cullen, for God's sake, and Nick Andros, man. And I mean, Nick appearing in Tom's dreams, you know, and stuff. And I really love the dynamic with the dude from Coach and Rob Lowe in the miniseries. I think it's really, really solid. It's really on par. It's great. It's great stuff. At number 6, let's see who we still have here. We have a couple. I'm trying to... Okay, you know what? I'll just go into it. Jack Sawyer and Wolf! Man, Jack has a crazy adventure that he has to go on in the Talisman, and he's jumping back and forth between the territories. He's drinking hooch to get there at certain points. He's doing all these other things, but, you know, when he starts to encounter, you know, these... where he encounters the werewolf species, and basically the friend who gets him through the back half of this book and is not afraid to really put its life on the line for the good of Jack, and that loyalty of... Like, I mean, they say dogs are the most loyal. That's why some people love having cats, you know, because you have to earn that, whatever. But dogs are just eternally loyal, and those are the type of... That's the type of dynamic that you have with Wolf and with Jack, and with getting through the wastelands together, and all these different things. I mean, and just when he's so overcome with emotion when he sees another... you know, another member of the wolves, you know, just kind of species, you know, in the back half of the book and stuff. It's just, oh man, some of the end of that book with the two of those characters is just, I mean, it made me feel like a kid again. It genuinely did. And I mean, we're talking on par with some of the best fantasy, whether it's I honestly just immediately my mind moves to stuff like Neverending Story and Return to Oz, and just, as a child, having that sort of connection with a mythical creature of sorts, and yet for it to be that kind and, you know, that helpful and loyal and all of that stuff. It's just, damn, y'all, I love the Talisman, and it's unfortunate that Black House fails in a lot of ways where the Talisman succeeds because of that youthful aspect. I really think that is of the supremest importance. So let's jump into number 5. And number 5, oh man, you know, I guess it has to be the Finders Keepers trio. Yeah, it really does, and that's Holly Gibney, Jerome Robinson, and Bill Hodges. It's so great seeing. It's really, for me, it boils down more so to Holly and Hodges specifically. But yeah, the trio of them, the trinity, if you will, of investigators, you know, Jerome being of the technical side in one aspect, and then Holly in another, and then Hodges just being the grizzled, you know, tough as nails, but insightful, experienced guy that he is. They make a hell of a team. And as we get to that third book, and even more so, the Holly and Hodges dynamic is important because of just some additional things that Holly says in an adventure that she has without Hodges that is a spin-off in The Outsider. It just really shows the depth of the closeness and the care and the love, you know, and not of a romantic level, just of mutual respect and you know, and honor and all of this. Man, so good. Good, guys. Okay. Number 4, I think we're at number 4. I have to also mention, boy, I had 1, I had 2, I had 3, I had 4, I had 5, I had 6, I had 7, I had 8, I had 9, I had 10, I had 11, I had 12, I had 13, I had 14, I had 15. Damn, you know, I've been off this whole damn time, because as opposed to Bobby Anderson and Guard, and then Ralph Roberts and Lois being an honorable mention, they were supposed to be my 15. So, well, we still have a couple left to rock through, so let's just soldier through momentarily. So, the last couple that I have to mention here, I bet you know where I'm going to be going with for you know, so, well, all of the usual suspects are the ones who are left, but we have to go with the crew from the body, Stand By Me, obviously. That being Gordy and Chris specifically, but you would be remiss not to mention, you know, Teddy and Vern as well. But the core of the friendship in that story that was so masterfully adapted by Rob Reiner is the well-to-do, better home life that Gordy has versus, you know, the terrible trouble at home that Chris has to deal with. And as much as I love the dynamic of Teddy and Vern, you know, being thrust in, it's really, at the end of the day, between Chris and Gordon, and you know Gordon being the one telling the story here and looking back at just that crazy 50s summer, and where the four of them go trying to be little local heroes, and you know, find the body of that kid about their age that's disappeared and is presumably dead. But your heart goes out to Chris so damn much in this, and there's tragic aspects to both his youth and to his adulthood, which are really they're tough to get through, but damn, if you ever just, I mean, I hope that everybody had at least a clique, a Ka-Tet, you know, a group of friends. I did growing up. I had a trio, a trinity that I still think very fondly about, and we're still good friends. We still live in the same city, ironically enough. You know, we're all still here in Phoenix, and it's, when you have that, it's just that much more tragic when it gets splintered off, kind of like the whole Arnie and Dennis thing that we were talking about. But there is just such a bittersweet, just soft, awesome innocence to the body, and obviously it's great Rob Reiner adaptation, but at the end of the day, the one that really pulls you in the feels friendship-wise is definitely, it's Chris and Cordy, man. And I love the lard-ass story. In some ways, I wish I could read that without the context, where it would be just separate, because that was actually something that King released separately. So, yeah, we are rounding out the last couple here, guys. I'm just one number off, so that was our number 3, actually, not our number 4. And then we're at number 2. And number 2, this is debatable amongst a lot of people, I am going to put Ka-Tet version 2 here at the number 2 slot, and that's for the sheer fact that despite the magnitude of their mission, they didn't get back together 27 years later, like the final group that we're going to mention here. But goddamn, did they have some adventures, I'm telling you. And I'd say maybe even more so than anyone, the connection between Jake and Roland is the deepest, even though it's more so a love, but like a fatherly love in comparison with like a friendship type love that you had, you know, with Bert and with you know, obviously Roland and stuff. And even that dynamic isn't the same as the one between Eddie and between you know, Roland. Eddie is very much the younger brother, and you know, brotherly family love is obviously different. But you know, the best of friends, they love each other like brothers and sisters anyway. But yeah, and Roland's love for Susan, you know, that of a sister, almost kind of daughter-esque. I mean, but just the entire version 2 of Roland's Ka-Tet is that they have a beautiful relationship, and everybody fits a certain dynamic and slot and role very, very well in that group. And it's much more well-rounded, and especially when you throw Father Callahan in the mix, because he really does become an unofficial member, as Brodigan kind of does as well. But you really have to boil it down to the group that spent book after book. I mean, we're talking, at the end of the day, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they were still reunited in 7. So that is the core of the version 2 Ka-Tet, even if you can't throw in somebody like Dinky to some degree, or Brodigan, or you know, Father Callahan. So how could we not mention them, especially near the very, very top of this list? But the very top of this list is most definitely going to be the Losers Club, and coming back 27 years later, knowing the importance of that return. And in some ways, it's great to have it's great to have the recognition of saving the entire universe and every corresponding linking alternate dimension or whatever, but there is something differently admirable about, you know, saving the world on a smaller scale, and you know, honestly going up against an entire town of sorts, and just the more personal aspect of that. In some ways, that might be tougher in a regard to face head on as the Losers do. And I mean, damn, I'm cautiously optimistic for Chapter 2, but I personally think that they did a great job of getting the youthful camaraderie across in both the original and in Andy Muschetti's remake that we got, reimagining more so than anything else that we got a couple years back. And I for one, think that Tommy Lee Wallace, I believe, is the name of the guy who directed the It miniseries and also did Halloween 3 and a few other films, but I felt like his adult cast was quite good, and that they get a unnecessary amount of hatred and stuff. But yeah, coming back and just immediately rekindling the friendship, and with all of that time apart, having that feeling right away that not a day has passed amongst all those losers. I mean, what a special feeling that must have been, and just the remembering, and just like there's almost these like dusty areas of a closet that you haven't been in a while, and you start looking around at all the stuff that's back in there, and you're like, oh, I remember this outfit, damn, I remember this trophy, and you know, just all of those wonderful youthful memories. I'm unfortunately a sucker for nostalgia, especially youthful nostalgia. I had an ex who used to talk smack to me about, why do you love all these coming of age movies and so on and so forth. And you know, it was just always because I think that that is such an important formative time in our lives, and I just love the fact that, you know, they just stepped right back into it, and it's like a day hasn't even passed when the Losers Club is back together. And so that's why they warm my heart. They are my number one. I wasn't really trying to make this a countdown, but I guess at the end of the day, it did in fact become one. And yeah, did I not... Did I seriously not mention... Yeah, you know what? I guess I didn't mention it because this is my true number one. This counting has been all left up today. It's because I should have actually numbered these, as opposed to running through this. How did I not talk about Edgar Freemantle and Jerome Wireman? Probably because of the fact that I mentioned them on another pick, but I think as far as bro to bro, dude to dude, just like that's right, because I mentioned them during Cuthbert and Roland. As far as, you know, being the man myself and all that, yeah, as far as like, you know, bros till the end and just all that silly, you're my bro kind of stupidity, does it really get cooler? And just, especially finding somebody at a later time in your life. It's one thing when you're younger to, you know, just click and have all that stuff because, you know, everything is just that much, I don't know, it's that much fresher and everything. I think it's probably tougher to make a best friend as you're getting older because you've met so many people, you know more about who you do like and who you don't like. Maybe you're not meeting as many people, but I guess the true number one here of Wireman and Edgar Freemantle, at least for me, and this probably being my internal number one without even thinking about it here. You know, Edgar goes through this catastrophic event, you know, losing an arm, losing a wife, massive relocation to the other side of the world, and so all of that upheaval and all of that chaotic moving around and whatnot. I mean, damn, it to meet a friend, that's like, you know, the path of the beam. That is like Ka right there, just putting the right person in your life at the right time, and whether you call it Ka, the will of God, destiny, fortune, luck, whatever the hell it is, that's, you know, Wireman being there to be Edgar's friend. And, you know, just living right down the beach from him. And, I mean, he was there for his friend when he needed to be, muchacho, you know? And I think man, do I think, it was right next to Under the Dome. And so that's why maybe Doomickey just stands out as being so amazing to me because I was not the biggest fan of Under the Dome. But nonetheless, man, Doomickey is amazing. And the man-to-man friendship, especially being one later in life between Freemantle and Wireman, and just him giving him Wireman and all the insight that he has to impart, and, you know, the history of the area, and just, you know, the selfless friendship, and just being warm and welcoming and accommodating to somebody that he didn't know, you know, but he was just trying to be welcoming and genuine. And man, Wireman, as I've often said, is probably my second favorite King character after Larry Underwood, and he's one that I really wish there was some way to tell more of a story about him. So let's just run through the list one more time, and I will try to get it in proper order, but I guess we will see right here, y'all. So at number 15, tied, we had Bobby Anderson and Guard, that's right, James Gardner from Tommyknockers, and then we had Ralph Roberts and Lois Chassé from none other than Insomnia. Both of those being a 15 and a tied, you know, kind of thing, almost like an afterthought, because that did in turn become romantic at one particular point. So other ones that we have to mention are Peter Robinson and Timlin from Summer Thunder. That's a terrific story. I'm just gonna run through the list. So we had Bobby Garfield, Ted Brodigan, Carol Gerber from Hearts in Atlantis. We had Andy and Red, definitely from Shawshank Redemption, more so the film, obviously. We had oh boy, we had Jonesy, Duddits, Beeve, Pete, and Henry, the SSDD crew, as I all too often call them, from Dreamcatcher. Then we had Gordy and Chris especially, but, you know, Teddy and Vern being a part of that as well, from The Body, and from from Stand By Me, so wonderfully adapted. We had Bill Hodges, we had Jerome Robinson, and Holly Gibney from the Hodges trilogy, which is so fantastic. We had Devin Jones, and then his right-hand guy and gal, Tom and Aaron from Joyland, to help him to varying degrees, through a summer of transition and losing a girl, and just basically maturing and growing up, and all to the backdrop of a murder mystery and a slightly ghostly presence, which is awesome, awesome, awesome. We've got Coffee, and we have Edgecombe from The Green Mile, and just the odd dynamic of their association / kind of friendship. I just mentioned them because they're amazing. Edgar Fremantle and Jerome Wireman from Under the Dome. We have 2 different versions of the Ka-Tet that we had to mention, both Bert, Elaine, and Roland, and then obviously version 2, which is the one that so many people think of with Oi and Jake and Susanna and Eddie. Then we had Ralph, since we already mentioned him, then we had Jack Sawyer, Wolf Wolf. We had Dennis and Arnie from Christine. We had Tom Cullen and Nick Andrews. Once again, shout out to Andrew for that. And then lastly, and in my opinion most prolifically, even if there is something to 2 dudes having just a very close kinship and stuff, there is something about a friendship that stands the test of time, as the Losers Club did. So I extend a grande gracias to everybody who tuned into this video despite my wonky, just kind of shooting from the hip rankings here. I have been Jaime and Fuego, and you can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, where I have started all kinds of different stuff, from my Star Wars coverage to upcoming new reviews, and a couple in Fuego-tainment kind of like live podcast type things that I've been doing as well, talking about previews of 2019 films and Oscars and all kinds of other fun stuff. So check those out on my personal YouTube channel if you feel the inclination. And if you're just stumbling upon this video, definitely like, share, and subscribe, and in turn hit the bell here on The Horror Show so that you can get information about all of the additional content that we do beyond this show, from movie reviews to trailer reactions, video game let's plays, all kinds of different things under the horror banner. And I also want to remind everybody that on Saturday, February 2nd, that's right, dun dun dun, this is the Hail to Stephen King Book of the Month for the monthly book club. And on the evening of February 2nd, which is this upcoming Saturday, I am going to be doing a live, that's right, sometime around 1900 hours Eastern Standard Time, a live spoilers discussion all about this amazing book that I've already finished. I was rereading it again for like the umpteenth time this month, and I've also been listening to the Audible as well. The voice actor is quite good. So please join me for The Eyes of the Dragon at the end of at the beginning of next month. So it'll be us looking back on the January selection, and I will also announce what the February book of the month is as well. So I guess that is the end of the proceedings today, y'all. So until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, I say hasta luego, sin amigos, and constant readers and viewers alike. I hope that we have been well met. I hope that we get to experience some palaver again sooner rather than later. And until that delightful instance transpires, remember, stay scared and read Stephen King. And honestly, it's only like 300 pages, so, get to it.